The movie opens with Dustin Hoffman running around New York. He is the marathon man. An old man uses a key to open a safety deposit box. He takes a small tin out of the box. Outside the bank, he secretly hands off the tin to a man. The old man with the safety deposit key is having car trouble. His car is stalling in front of a Jewish man. They argue until the situation turns into a road rage incident. The two men are killed when they crash into a gas tanker. The old man's safety deposit key burns up in the car with him. Dustin Hoffman sees the fire in the distance, but keeps jogging. He loves jogging. He is always working to improve his time. A rival blows by Dustin. Hoffman gives chase. A dog jumps out and tries to bite Dustin's rival, which slows him down, but, even with the disadvantage, the rival is still able to beat Dustin Hoffman. Dustin jogs home and is taunted by his neighbors who call him Twinkle Toes and the Creep. He takes a bath and watches a news report about the accident. The old man with the safety deposit key was the brother of a notorious Nazi thought to have perished during the war. Roy Scheider arrives in Paris, a city in turmoil. There are protesters, jammed streets, and trash piled up everywhere. Roy is nonplussed by the chaos. He buys a box of chocolates. At his hotel room, he hides a tin inside the box of chocolates. The tin is the same kind as the safety deposit box man passed off to the man on the streets of New York. Roy receives a call from Janie. Roy wants Janie to come over badly. A hotel employee tries to drop off a suit, but Roy says there must be some mistake. A strange Chinese man with one eye watches Roy. Roy brings the candy to a slimy antique dealer named Leclerc. Leclerc tells Roy that he doesn't have his half of the exchange in the shop. He tells Roy to meet him at the opera tonight and he'll give him his half of the exchange. Roy leaves the candy with the hidden tin with Leclerc. Just as Roy is leaving, a time bomb goes off, barely missing Roy. Dustin Hoffman has a meeting for his doctoral dissertation. His professor encourages him to write about the McCarthy anti-communist hearings. The professor is an old friend of Dustin's dad. As the meeting goes on, Dustin remembers discovering his dad's body after he ended it all. Dustin says his dad was innocent and the professor agrees. The one-eyed Chinese man stalks Roy to a cafe where Roy is meeting with his handler, Janeway, and a woman. He tells the woman to meet him tonight at the opera. Roy briefs Janeway. He tells him that something is up, but Janeway tries to calm him down. Janeway says that there are bombings everywhere in Paris because of the strike. That night at the opera, Roy finds Leclerc has been murdered. Someone slit Leclerc's throat. Outside, the woman from the cafe approaches Roy, but he tells her not to acknowledge him because it isn't safe. She walks away. Roy is relaxing on the balcony of his hotel room when the Chinese man with one eye attempts to garrote him with a wire. Roy gets his hand between the wire and his neck, which saves his life. He fights off the one-eyed man and breaks his neck. Janeway meets Roy at the clinic where he is getting his hand treated. Janeway tells Roy that Zell's brother has been killed in New York, which leads Roy to think that someone is picking off the couriers, but that's not true. Zell died in a road rage incident that has nothing to do with the diamond smuggling operation, but spies are a paranoid lot. Dustin flirts with a pretty European girl at the library. She gets a little creeped out and quickly leaves. In fact, she leaves so quickly that she forgets her book. Dustin looks at the book and sees that she wrote her address on the first page. He rushes to return it. He catches up to her on her front stoop. She takes the book and thanks him. She tries to go into her apartment, but Dustin tries to get her to agree to go out on a date. She finally does agree. Meanwhile, on the Universal lot, specifically the set of the TV show Fantasy Island, meanwhile in Paraguay, a village woman delivers pressed shirts to a house in the remote jungle. An old man with striking, wavy white hair watches the rainfall. On his desk among many German newspapers is a headline in English about the car accident that killed his brother. Yes, the safety deposit guy was this man's brother. The man cuts off his striking white hair. Then, the man boards a boat and leaves his jungle home. Dustin takes the pretty girl from the library out on a date. Her name is Elsa. She becomes part of his life, even helping him train for the marathon. While walking in the park at dusk, they are mugged by men in business suits. Dustin writes Roy, his brother, to tell him about his new relationship with Elsa, and he tells him about getting mugged. He tells Roy that he is usually timid and afraid of conflict, but he feels so angry that he thinks he could kill the muggers. The newly bald man from the jungle house is named Zell also. He is the man with the deposit key's brother. He is a wanted Nazi, known as the White Angel for his distinctive hair. That is why he shaved himself bald. He doesn't want to be recognized, because he is coming to America to get the contents of the safety deposit box now that his brother can no longer do it for him. His two henchmen meet him at the airport, and guess who they are? Zell's henchmen are the two men in business suits that mugged Dustin and Elsa. Roy sneaks into Dustin's apartment while he's sleeping and pretends to attack him. They clown around as only brothers can. Roy asks about what happened in the park. Dustin wants Roy to look at some interviews with their dad's friends. Roy wants nothing to do with the past. Dustin seems trapped in it. Roy asks if he still has their dad's gun, the gun that he killed himself with. Dustin takes a 1911 out of his drawer. Yeah, he still has it. Roy asks why he keeps it. Dustin says he doesn't know. He just does. Roy invites Dustin and Elsa to lunch the next day. Despite it all, these two brothers love each other. At lunch the next day, Roy is very much the world-traveling debonair spy. He is very charming towards Elsa, but in the middle of a conversation he drops the word diamond and watches her intently to see if she'll give anything away. Roy asks Elsa about her home. He casually questions her about her hometown. He says he's familiar with it and questions her about people in her hometown that she would know. She says she knows them, but he was laying a trap for her. He made it all up. He confronts her about her lies. She admits she's not Swiss. She is German. Roy tries to make Dustin think he's worried she'll marry him for U.S. citizenship, but the truth is he knows she's working with Zell. He uses subterfuge because he doesn't want to out himself as a spy to his brother. Roy meets with Zell and his henchmen. Roy is upset that Zell planted Elsa and messed with his brother. Zell wants assurances that he won't be robbed when he gets his diamonds. Roy says he doesn't care what happens to Zell one way or the other. He strikes Zell. Zell wants to know if it's safe. With a hidden blade he stabs Roy in the gut, a fatal blow, but Roy isn't quite dead yet. Zell and his henchmen leave quickly. Dustin gets Elsa on the phone. He tells her that he doesn't care that she lied about her past. As he's getting ready to go to her place, Roy stumbles in. He is pale from all the blood loss. He mumbles something and expires on the floor of Dustin's crummy apartment. The police question the frustrated Dustin. Janeway comes and explains that Roy worked for a government agency called the Division. He asks Dustin if he can help catch Roy's killers. Janeway thinks the killers will want to know if Roy told Dustin anything before he died. He asks Dustin if he can use him as bait. Dustin asks if they'll come tonight, but Janeway assures him that they won't. Later that night they come while Dustin is taking a bath. They kidnap him. Hey Janeway, great job. Dustin finds himself tied to a chair. Zell keeps asking him if it's safe, but Dustin doesn't know what he's talking about. Zell acts like Dustin should know what he means, but he only asks one question, that question being, is it safe? Zell takes out dental tools and tortures Dustin. Even the henchman turns away at the sight of Zell's handiwork. Zell promises to stop if Dustin answers his question, is it safe? Zell gives Dustin a bottle that soothes the pain he caused. The henchman throws Dustin on a bed. Dustin sees Janeway sneaking in behind one of the henchmen. Janeway kills the henchman and helps Dustin into a car the 2-speed away. Janeway asks Dustin what his brother told him before he died, but Roy didn't say anything, so that's what Dustin tells Janeway. Janeway explains that Zell worked at a concentration camp during the war. Zell would exchange diamonds for safe passage for the Jews. Janeway says that Roy was a courier for Zell. The Division worked both sides against the middle. Zell used his brother to smuggle the diamonds to America before the war ended. His dead brother had the only other safety deposit key. Zell had to come to America to get the diamonds. Janeway drops Dustin back at Zell's hideout. The henchmen that Janeway supposedly killed are alive and well. Dustin realizes that Janeway is working with Zell and that Janeway was in on killing his brother. Janeway tells Zell that Dustin doesn't know anything and he knows too much. Zell politely questions Dustin. He says that he is sure Roy planned on robbing him as he left the bank with the diamonds. Zell speaks casually as he sets up his torture implements. Then he drills into Dustin's teeth. Afterwards, Zell tells his henchman that Dustin knew nothing or he would have told. He tells the henchman to get rid of Dustin. Janeway tells Zell that he has to leave tomorrow afternoon. He'll have to get the diamonds in the morning or not at all. The CIA and Nazis, a disgusting brew. As the henchmen try to get Dustin in the car, he runs away. The henchmen and Janeway give chase, but Dustin uses his marathon man skills to outlast them. Eventually he sneaks in a cab and gets away. The cab drops him by a payphone. He trades his watch, a Rolex gifted to him by his brother, for a dime to make a phone call. Dustin is the guy that held onto the gun that his father used to end himself, but his present circumstances are forcing him to let go of his past. He calls Elsa from the payphone. He wants her to meet him in an hour. First, he needs to get something from his apartment. The little man who was afraid of confrontation is being forced to change, to take the hard road. Since he knows they'll be watching his place, he sneaks across the street to the stoop guy's house, the guy who taunts him when he's running. Dustin rings his buzzer. He wants him to get the gun from his apartment and he can take anything else he wants. TV, stereo, whatever. Dustin warns him that it's going to be dangerous. As they are breaking in, Janeway pulls a gun on them, but they have guns too. Janeway is outnumbered. He has no choice but to let them go. Dustin gets picked up by Elsa in front of the Chock-full-o-nuts. Is that a 70s gay bar? I don't think so. Funny name. She takes him to a country house. She says it's her girlfriend's family's house. Dustin knows she's a plant. He straight up asks her if the house is Zell's. She feigns ignorance, but eventually she tells the truth. Dustin asks her when they will get here. Her answer is ominous: soon. Dustin says something unexpected. Faced with the prospect of certain death, Dustin says only one word: good. He looks around the house at Zell's family photos and sees that evil men were once innocent children. Janeway and the henchmen arrive. Dustin applies the healing juice to his teeth, then he throws it on the ground and it shatters. There will be no more hiding from pain. He'll have to face it willingly if he is to survive. He holds Janeway and the henchmen at gunpoint. He lets them into the house to talk. Despite having a gun pointed at him, Janeway is cool and collected. Dustin wants to know where Zell is. In a flash, one of the henchmen tries to shoot Dustin, but Janeway shoots both henchmen. Dustin still has his gun out and he tells Janeway to drop his gun, which he does. Janeway tells Dustin that he'll trade Zell for his brother. He tells him what bank Zell is at. Elsa buys it and tells Dustin to go. Dustin leaves. Janeway grabs his gun. He's going to shoot Dustin in the back. Elsa calls out to warn Dustin. Janeway shoots her, which alerts Dustin. Dustin shoots Janeway and kills him. Dustin sees that Elsa is dead. He sees that Zell's house has become a house of death. Maybe that's all it ever was. Zell goes to the Diamond District to determine the value of his stash. The Diamond District is filled with Jews. He gets nervous when the man acts like a used car salesman and won't answer his questions. He sees a camera and leaves. Outside the store, an old woman recognizes him, but she can't place where she knows him from. At another store, he tries to set up a sale. The jeweler's assistant, an older man, asks Zell if they've met before. Zell gives a fake name, but he's a little thrown when he sees a concentration camp tattoo on the man's wrist. Zell leaves. The little old lady finally recognizes Zell, the White Angel. She tries to get someone to help, but this is New York. No one wants to help her. Zell is terrified as he walks past all the Jewish faces. She crosses the street to confront Zell, but she is hit by a taxi. In the confusion, Zell is about to make his getaway when the jeweler's assistant confronts him. He knows who Zell is. Zell slits his throat with his wrist knife. In the chaos, he gets away. Zell gets the diamonds from the safety deposit box. As he is walking out of the bank, he hears Dustin saying it's not safe. He turns and sees that Dustin has a concealed gun trained on him, his father's gun. Zell tries to bribe Dustin, but it doesn't work. Dustin leads Zell to a water treatment facility within the park. Dustin tells Zell to show him what he's got. He's finally figured out that all this happened because Zell was afraid he was going to get robbed. Zell shows him the diamonds in his briefcase. Zell tries to get Dustin into his killing range, close enough to gut him like he gutted his brother, but Dustin screams for him to stop. Zell can't figure out Dustin's game. He asks Dustin if he is going to take his diamonds, but Dustin says Zell can keep them. He tells Zell that he can keep as many as he can swallow. Zell thinks he's joking. To show how serious he is, Dustin takes a handful of diamonds and tosses them into the sewer. Zell is horrified. Zell screams. Dustin tosses another handful into the sewer. Dustin fires a warning shot. Zell reluctantly swallows a few diamonds. Dustin tosses another handful at Zell and tells him to do it again. Zell refuses. He tells Dustin he'll have to shoot him. Zell tells Dustin that he is weak and that his brother was weak and that his father was weak, all the while getting closer to Dustin. He spits up the diamonds. He gets so close that Dustin slaps him for insulting his family. As he slaps, he loses his grip on the gun, which goes flying onto the walkway. Zell activates his knife and tries to stab him, but Dustin grabs the diamonds and tosses them into the sewer. Zell rushes to save them but falls down a staircase which leads to the sewer below. In the fall, Zell accidentally stabs himself. He falls into the sewer with his diamonds and dies. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Dustin walks on the trail where he usually jogs and throws his father's gun in the river, a perhaps symbolic gesture that he is ready to let go of the past and embrace the future as the credits roll. Marathon Man is an entertaining movie with great performances by Dustin Hoffman, Roy Scheider, and Laurence Olivier. Believe it or not, the CIA actually protected Nazis and gave them jobs in the U.S. if they thought they could provide valuable information. Mike Wallace confronted the Nazis in the late 70s or early 80s. That's on YouTube if you want to see it. Marathon Man is a great movie. My one bone to pick is that I would have liked it if they made Dustin's character arc a little clearer. But I guess in the 70s ambiguity ruled the day. Have you seen Marathon Man? Let me know what you think in the comments.